Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this from scratch without the use of any type of JavaScript libraries. Hey everybody, what's up? Gary Simon here. So today we're going to be checking out a couple of different things, but the primary focus of this tutorial is to show you how to do this thing. So you can see there's a watermark where it says, yeah, let me check it out real quick. And you can see it's kind of like based on like a 90-degree angle here. And what this is SVG text that is being aligned onto an SVG path that we create. So I'm going to show you how to create the path. And notice how it's kind of like a square. It just goes in a square. Keep your eye on that watermark as it's going. And it's based on the scroll. As it's going, it's basically just animating based on that path. And I'm also going to show you how to use the IntersectionObserver API to do the animations for the actual H1 titles right here. So very fun stuff. And I got the inspiration from this tutorial from typiness.net. I forget how to pronounce it, but COD drops right here, COD drops, and animating text, SVG text on a path. They have a really cool example as well where you can use Bezier right here, actual Bezier paths with curves. And there's a lot of stuff you can do. You can actually add SVG filters like they're doing right here as well. All right, so basically, yeah, make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. Hopefully you're all doing well with the current lockdown situation in the world. Hopefully you're just continuing to learn, taking advantage of the time that you might have off. So yeah, hope all is well. Let's get started. Before we begin, there's never been a better time to try Linode. From now until May 31st of 2020, Linode is giving every single account access to object storage for free. That's right. Whether you create an account all the way back in 2003 or even just today, you can take advantage of free object storage until April 30th of 2020. What is object storage, you might ask? Well, object storage is an easy way to store and access data without the need for running a server. It's perfect for data that doesn't regularly change, like images and other multimedia files, important backups, or giant archives for servers that might need more storage space. One of the best use cases for object storage is hosting your own static website. You can have a site up and highly available on Linode's object storage with as little as an HTML and CSS file. To give object storage a try for free and get an additional $20 on your new Linode account, sign up at linode.com/design course. All right, so here we are in Adobe Illustrator. You can use whichever SVG capable app that you wish to do this. It's extremely simple. I'm going to start with a new document of 500 pixels by 500 pixels. The size doesn't really matter. And come on, don't be slow. What are you doing? There we go. And this is where you're going to define the actual SVG path that the text will follow or animate on. Like a lot of people were doing just, a very simple sort of Bezier curve like that. Perfectly fine. I wanted to do something different just to see if I could do it. So I'm just going to take a square kind of like this out to here. I'm holding shift just to create, nice lines here and coming all the way out here. Almost connecting them, but not quite. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think it changes the type of SVG element that it outputs. And I don't want it to output that type of element, but it'll still just follow, sort of this square line anyhow. So at this point, we can just go ahead. By the way, we can take this and just get rid of the stroke. We don't need it. And I'm just going to save it here. And I'm not going to save an actual file. It doesn't even matter. I'm just going to make sure it's a SVG here in Illustrator at least. You may have to save it depending if you're doing a different app, because when you do this and you hit save, it's going to give us a prompt. And that way it'll just say export the code. And that's what I want to do. And maybe it's because I just recently installed Doom Eternal, the new Doom Eternal, but my computer's running kind of slow. Here it is. So now I can just click on SVG code and it pops up Notepad, and I'll just copy all this and then close it out. So I'm not even saving the file here. So here I am in Visual Studio Code. I have a folder with an index.html. As you can see, it's pretty much blank. We have linked up a CSS file. And again, there's nothing in my Sass file. We don't even need to use Sass for this, I realize, but I'm doing it anyhow. And let me get this here and make sure that we're actually watching this. There we go, watch Sass. All right, and let's go ahead and get the HTML first before we paste that, the SVG. So section, I'm just going to put h1 with a class of anim, short for animation. We want to animate these things. Yo, you see this? Question mark. Now I will paste this down here. We'll fix this up. This looks like garbage. There's a bunch of unnecessary stuff in there. We're going to copy this 2 more times, and I'm going to change these up. It's darn cool. I will also change this one up to I know. Right. Okay. I'm also, just for the heck of it, I'm going to put in an image class of anim as well, and source image.jpg alt equals eyeball. Okay. So this is just a picture I got from Unsplash. It's in here, right here, and just to make the sections look a little different. All right, so we're going to save this now, and we're going to get rid of these top 2 lines. Oh, you know what? By the way, I am going to take this. We're going to copy it. We're going to go to SVG OMG. All right. So you just go to Google and type that in. You'll come to this page. We're going to paste markup. All right. And right now, if you look at this, what we pasted, we have a polyline. We want a path. And so if we just leave these on the default elements here, and we click this clipboard, copy as text, we're going to take this, paste that in, and now we have a path. You can see we don't have that polyline anymore. You can see how, how significantly they got rid of everything. I'm just going to get rid of that as well. All right, so now we're good to go, and we're going to save it. Now at this point, if I come over here and open with live server, you're going to need the live server extension if you want to follow along. This is what we have. Obviously, nothing's working. Okay, so what we'll do first is head on over to our SAS file, and I'm going to take a body. We're going to say height 400, viewport height, margin 0. And also I'm going to take our image just to get this out of the way. In fact, the image is not important and it's not pertinent to the purpose of this tutorial, so I'm just going to paste this stuff in right here real quickly. All right, and now if we save this, we'll see this is relegated over there into that side. Let's take each of our sections as well. So we have 3 sections. We're going to do a width of 100% and a height of 100 viewport height. And that way, based on the viewport height, it's going to give each one of those sections, its own section on the screen, if that makes sense. So we're also going to display grid, because inside of each section we have an H1 element, along with this here, although this element, the image element, because it's position absolute, won't be affected by this. So we're going to do place content center. That centers it, a grid that is horizontally and vertically. Z index, we're going to put this at 2, and then position relative, because we have a position absolute inside based on the image. So now we're not going to see that image initially. We'll see it here, all right, and then we see this next section down here. Okay, so we're getting somewhere slowly but surely. All right, our SVG itself, we don't yet see anything in the SVG because remember, we didn't have a stroke or whatever, so we don't see it. Let's actually get this so we can actually see this. So what we want to do is we want to add SVG text into it. So you do that by putting in text, and we put a Y equals, we'll say 40, font size equals, we'll say 30, and then font family equals, I have Montserrat installed on my machine already, but we also put Arial here. All right. And then what we want to do inside of that text here is we want to put in a text path. So we're going to put, let's see here, text path, ID equals text hyphen path. Class is text. href is going to be our hyphen text. And start, well, we're going to leave the start offset off right there. We're just going to leave it just like that. And then inside of here, we're going to put, we're going to put our actual text that we want to, animate. Let me check it out real quick. All right, so our text needs, this href needs to be based on the ID of the path itself. So ID equals, get rid of this dash, or this hashtag rather, and there we go. So now if we come back here, we see it right there at the very bottom. Let's get it so we can see it up the top. So to do that, and you can see how it's kind of wrapping around, we have to create a selector in our CSS for SVG. So for our SVG, we're going to say width is going to be 100%, height will be 100 viewport height, position is going to be fixed, that's what's going to get it all the way up to the top, as well as top 0, and then z-index we're going to put -1. So now we see it right here. Okay, we're getting somewhere. All right, next up, let's take our H1 element, make those beefier in a sense. So we're going to say font family is Montserrat. We're going to do font size of 4 EM units, and opacity will be 0. All right, you'll see, well, actually, let's go ahead and just like take opacity 0 off for a second, just so we can see. All right, there we go. Now, one thing that's wrong about this is I want this to be more of like a watermark, because it's going to be animating based on scroll once we get the JavaScript, and having it, 100% black is just going to be too much in my opinion. So for now, we're going to leave it there, but I will add opacity. All right. Now, finally, we're going to create one final rule set here called animate. And we're going to do animation. We'll call the animation reveal, and then 1 second, and then we'll do forwards. So let's create the reveal animation. So that's going to be keyframes reveal from opacity 0, transform, translate X, -180 pixels or so. So it's going to come from the left and then move in based on the elements that have the animate class attached to it, which will be attached in JavaScript. They're not there right now. We haven't used the animate class. And then we're going to do 2, opacity 1, translate X 0. And change this to 2, of course. There we go. All right, so now it is time for the JavaScript. All right. Let me get this a little bit bigger so we can, I want to make sure everybody can see what's happening here. All right, so for our JavaScript, what we want to do here is first get our text path. All right, so we're going to say var text path equals document.query selector text hyphen path. Is it, or is it our text? Yeah, no, text hyphen path. All right, so let's get rid of that. No, let's leave that there. There, okay. So with this is in reference to our text path here, given an idea of text path, and that's what we are referencing with text path right there. All right, so next we want to create a function that will update through JavaScript the value of our start offset attribute, which we haven't added yet. So what that does is if we add it right here, start offset equals like 400. So if we look at it before saving, it's right here. And then if we save it, it is now moved over there. All right, so of course, because this is a square with right angles, you're going to get overlapping. I didn't really care about that much, so it's not that big of a deal to me, especially because we're going to watermark it. So as you can see, a start offset will allow you to position this. So we want to update that based on the scroll position, so we have to do it dynamically. So to do that, we're just going to say function update text path offset, and we'll take in the offset, and then we're going to say text path set attribute, and this is our start offset rather, and offset. We pass in the offset. So then we'll call this update text path offset. And again, you can put in any number here, but really initially it doesn't matter. It's going to be wherever you put it. We're going to update that though in a function that we'll call onScroll. And we're going to request animation frame. And inside of here, this is where we call update our text path offset, except we're not passing in this. We're going to pass in our window.scrollY, and we're going to multiply it by some factor. It could be 1 if you want it to go exactly the same rate, or 1.5 for instance, which will make it go a little bit quicker. All right, so you can play with that when we have all of this working. So then down here, we're going to say window.addEventListener scroll. So then we call onScroll, which we just defined. So when the window's scrolled, when we're using either on a mobile device, like we're scrolling with our finger, or we're using this to scroll it, this will get called, and then onScroll gets called, request animation frame gets called, and then we call the update text path offset. We get the window.scrollY position, which updates, very quickly, and then that's what changes the set attribute and the start offset of the attribute up here. All right, so that's pretty good. We're not done yet with the JavaScript though, but we should have something that perhaps works just a little bit. There we go. Now look how cool that is. Now I want to change this text back here. So we can do that here by creating a style inside of our SVG. So inline CSS. So we're going to say style. And one second. We're going to put type equals text CSS. Inside of the style, we're going to reference our text. I'm not sure if I defined that yet, but either way, text transform, we're going to do uppercase, font weight is bold, and then we're going to give it a fill of very light gray, E6, E6, E6. Of course, in Visual Studio Code, you can hover over this and select whatever you want. All right, text path. Do we actually have a class called, yes, it's right here. All right, so now we save this, and this is what we have now. So look at that, very, very cool. Now when you change the math a little bit over here, like to say 3, you're going to see how quickly it goes around. So you can really control it. You could probably even do 0.3. So this should be very slow. Look at that. All right, so we're going to go back to 1.5. And now the content right here is kind of boring, right? So what if we wanted to make this stuff animate in, for instance? Well, this would be a perfect use case for using our, what is it called? IntersectionObserver API, all right? So this is really cool. So we're going to get our titles, all right? So our H1 elements. So we're going to say const titles equals document.query selector all, because there's 3 of them, right? When we get all of them, we want to animate all of them. So we're going to say .anim, all right? Because right now each of the H1 elements has an animation class. So we're going to say observer is new, equals new rather, intersection observer, and we're going to pass in entries, and we're going to say entries.for each, because right now that's going to be 3 of them, and we say if entry.is intersecting, and it passes, if you wanted to, you could just console log the entry to see everything that you have available to it. So you could just do, console log entry. Might as well just do that just so you can see. And then we can, in order to get this all working, we take our titles, we for each it, and we say title, and then we say observer.observe title. All right, so if you ever wanted to use intersection observer with just one element, you would use query selector instead of query selector all, and then you wouldn't have to do a for each. You would just observe that one element, and you wouldn't have to for each it inside here as well, just to note. But most of the time, you'll probably want to be doing this on multiple elements anyhow, so that's how I'm setting it up. So that's all it is for the JavaScript until, you know, we get to this part and we change it. But I just wanted to get out our console here. And if we refresh this, you're going to see this stuff spit out a bunch of stuff. So if we take a look at one of these, it's going to tell you is visible, false, what is the target, is intersecting. That's what we're going to use. So is intersecting turns to true when one of these H1 elements comes into view. All right, so what we'll do is say if entry.isIntersecting equals true, we'll say entry.target.classlist.add animate. So remember we created the animate class here just earlier, right here. So it's going to attach this animate class onto the H1 element. And then we'll say else. We'll copy this, change this to remove, and that's it. Alrighty, let's see if this worked. So let's maximize this. All right, so refresh. Oh, how cool is that? All right, so hopefully you found that useful. You learned something new. Of course, as always, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon with a new video. Goodbye.